Welcome into another edition of Gas. I am Gresh. He is Jason Anik.
You were playing everybody and we're winning the game last night.
The head coach is fighting people on the sideline.
What do you got for me?
I know you're a part of Tight Pants Society.
No f***ing play is that a gimme, right?
We wrap up a very busy month of August here on Gas. We are back in the normal slot, Tuesday, 11 a.m., Gresh Anik Show, Gas Morning Drive. And I'm with a guy who has so many frequent flyer miles. He's upgraded to John Anik status for his next flight to Vegas. It's Jason Anik, who will be calling Dirty Boxing this weekend down in Miami. How you doing, brother?
Oh, great. Back in our regular slot. Gresh back in his regular Carhartt sweatshirt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'd really like to do the whole program with a little bit of a Boston accent someday. Some people really don't like it. I like it. The older I get, the more I like the Boston accent. You know, when I was a kid, I didn't like it as much.
When people do the Boston accent, they go too far by trying to make every word have a Boston accent. There are only, as you know, certain words where the Boston accent really truly comes out.
Exactly. Someone asked me to say Boston, Massachusetts, and I was like, neither of those words bring it out much, right? But I thought it would be fun at some point to have like a program, like a segment on a show where you sort of picked a word and said it in a Boston accent. For example, I think I was looking, I don't know if it was a college football score, whatever it was, but the team was Incarnate Word, right?
Uh-huh.
Right? Or whatever.
I did one of their games. Yeah. Incarnate Word. I think they're the Cardinals. The Incarnate Word Cardinals. Yeah, you can exactly. Like, and again, if you do it with that and the rest of the sentence is okay, then you kind of sound like you might be from Boston. But I'm totally with you on that. And I know you have a big card Friday night, Dirty Boxing down in Miami. It's free to watch on YouTube. For those who don't know, perfect for the youngs. I just drove. We did the weekend trip to Pittsburgh to take the youngest, and I didn't get emotional. Well, it hit me a little bit because he's my buddy and we watch UFC and all that stuff, right? The first one, it was like, praise Jesus, you know, like
hit you.
Well, pretty close. It was one of those you knew maybe there could be disaster, but with this one, you know, I said to my wife on our 8.5-hour ride back, where we did stop at Hershey's Chocolate World, though, tremendously delicious, and the stuff they have there is whack. Do you like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches quickly?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I think we've been over this. I'm anti, but you know, they've added a layer of jelly to a Reese's peanut butter cup. I had no idea that this was even out there. So we're walking around Chocolate World and I'm like, oh my God, is that like a PB and J in candy form? And like some, you know, nice Hershey's lady was like, why, yes, it is, young fella. You know, and they're like so nice there. I couldn't believe it. But I mean, we got some from my father-in-law. But anyway, on the ride back, I said to my wife, I said, I don't think it's really going to hit me that the youngest is gone until there's a UFC pay-per-view. Because every UFC pay-per-view, whether we were putting the TV outside to light a fire and friends would come over, or it was just us watching in the living room, wherever he was in his schooling, there was always Saturday night when the pay-per-view's on. It's on at 6:00 and we're probably getting food or something like that. So like the next pay-per-view, it might really hit me that he's not around. And I know he's not going to come barreling through the door and be like, come on, we got to make our bets, which is what he did for 319. And it absolutely cracked me up. Anyway, just a way to tie in the weekend.
I love that. And it will hit you. And what you said at the very end, though, that'll be what the connection is, right? You guys will have to be in communication that day to see where the action is. You know what I mean?
100%.
But
100%.
It is for those of us
and to talk about the fights too. Like that's the other thing is that even for, and here's what it is, Jay, and you would understand the context of this, right? If you're following UFC, you're following it at the highest level. And we talked about how now There's room for others in the world of martial arts like PGF and dirty boxing and all that, power slap, for whatever people think of that. I mean, that's another one. But I think that like for me, I'll still talk with him about the main event of dirty boxing, right? So it might not be the whole card,
right?
But we're aware of the other parts of the fight game to where if there is something interesting that is at the top of the card, that'll get discussion. Whereas when it comes to us with UFC, it's all 13 fights end up getting some level of discussion.
Well, and what's interesting, we talk about gambling, right? For the Professional Grappling Federation, for the first 4 out of the 5 regular season weeks, there were lines available on betonline.ag. You don't think I was all about looking at those? I didn't have a lot of action, but saw some opportunities maybe there if I was in the jiu-jitsu gambling world, but haven't seen any lines for dirty boxing this weekend. But what I will say, it really is fascinating to sort of cover grappling and then to cover a league in dirty boxing where it's punches, elbows, ground and pound to the finish, and that's it. So Friday night will be live at the Hangar in Miami. Jairzinho Rosenstrike in the main event. His opponent, Rob Perez, the Wolf from Worcester, Mass, is injured. So Rakeem Cleveland stepping up. I think Rakeem Cleveland's an interesting challenge, but as usual, there are a lot of UFC fighters with experience, past UFC fighters on this card. None other than Brian the Butcher Battle, who just was cut by the UFC, who will be making his dirty boxing debut Friday night at DBX3. My brother said, real good chance you're going to be interviewing Brian Battle in the ring Friday night. So either way, dirty boxing is electric. So check it out on YouTube. Go ahead.
Who's Battle fighting? Are they bringing in King Kong Bundy and putting him in the 400-pound weight class? What's going on here?
Well, and no disrespect to his opponent, but I haven't buried my head in that yet. A lot of NFL stuff going on. I'm doing a podcast called Last Men Standing with Tony Farmer, which I think you know about, based all upon the Survivor contest at Circa in Vegas. So that's been taking a lot of my time, but you can be sure I'll know everything there is to know about Brian Battle's opponent in about 4 or 5 hours.
I just needed to make a weight joke at the expense of Brian Battle. That was wild stuff. Speaking of wild stuff, did you see the Raja Jackson video? So apparently at this is Rampage Jackson's son, and he was at a pro wrestling event, I do believe in California, where the spot was supposed to be, there was basically a takedown and a slam of the wrestler who got injured. And I think it might have been like a German suplex or something, like it was some kind of suplex where it wasn't the safest thing from a pro wrestling standpoint. I love the pro wrestling world. And there are, like even Brock Lesnar did 15 German suplexes once on John Cena and did not injure him, right? So that's kind of wild when you think about it, because you're throwing a human being over your head. But anyway, Raja Jackson ended up kind of going too far. The guy was knocked out from hitting the mat and then took some punches and then basically fled the scene. I read the comments of Rampage. He put it out the other day, and there's just a lot going on there because it's supposed to be scripted, so therefore worked. And if your other person is unconscious, just like MMA, you don't hit the person. You kind of back off, and everybody kind of, in theory, should get that. What do you make of what you saw, Jay?
I didn't see it. It was taken down. Was it not? It's not the easy, I'm sure Cody in the world he lives in, it's easy to find it, but I didn't go seek it out after I heard about it. The fact that Rampage came out, Cody's like in the chat, I mean, do you really want to see it? Maybe I don't. But either way, I mean, respect to Rampage for sort of maybe coming out and just being honest about how he felt about it. Certainly, as the father, I would toe the same line that Rampage does. But apparently the guy is doing okay after sort of being unconscious, so that's good. But Cody was saying about 16 unanswered shots. The guy lost all his teeth. It gets worse.
It went too far, even in a scripted wrestling world. Let's put it this way: in the world of pro wrestling, one of the things that people sort of point to as a moment where WWE went too far was a match between The Rock and Mick Foley, where Mick Foley was handcuffed. Okay, that was the guy who jumped off the top of the cage with The Undertaker. He's handcuffed, and he took, I think it was 10 unprotected chair shots to the head. And you kind of can't fake that, and you could see the dents in the chair. Now, the guy survived, and that was supposedly worked, but went too far, and it made people uncomfortable. This was a flat-out assault where a guy went crazy. Like, Rampage's kid wasn't working, and even the suplex throwdown was pretty sloppy. Apparently, this guy might have lost all of his teeth. Like, you normally get one or two. It had to take people to run from the back to basically run out and tackle Rajah Jackson to get him off this guy, because he was just pounding this unconscious dude. It was pretty bad. I know that the cops are investigating. Yeah, if you want to see it, Jay, I have no problem playing it. It is what it is. So you've been warned, but really for me,
discretion advised.
Yeah.
So this is scripted here.
This part, watch this. No, that's not the way you do that. And then he got taken down, and before anybody could, I guess, talk to him, he ran out of the building, got the hell out of there. Now, that scrap is apparently real on the whole. The guy who yoked him is like holding him and trying to be like, dude, so they ultimately like got him in the corner, but it was the slam. That's what did it. And in that world, that's where you protect the other guy to set up what is the rest to come. So
that's a nightmare. Like, that's a nightmare. And like, after the super unnecessary shots, there was a round of super unnecessary shots. What an absolute nightmare.
No, they're going to get him.
Jeez.
They're going to get him on this. I would say there's no way they don't prosecute. I didn't see it, but I heard Chael Sonnen, who has known Rampage for a long time and knows Rajah, even put out like a video. And I guess at the beginning of it, he was like, okay, this is complicated. And I didn't see it, but I know that there have been a lot of people who have been talking about the kid. I don't know if Rajah Jackson has said anything. They probably told him, shut up until the cops talk to you or whatever, because we know that so after that, he left the scene. Someone called him and goes, he flatlined, bro. And his response was just, my bad. If that is the case, that's all going to get investigated. And that's just being, even in an MMA world, no one would have been allowed to just sit there and pound away like that. So that was out there. But for as bad as that was, the Red Sox are still kind of remaining hot. That 10-game win streak, again, you can be 500 around a 10-game win streak and make the playoffs, and that's what it looks like is going to kind of happen with the Red Sox. They took 3 out of 4 in the Bronx. Garrett Crochet was great on Saturday. And then it's, of course, battles with Baltimore. And Baltimore has just become, oh, God. They're just getting beat up by everybody right now. But anyway, Jay, where are you on the Red Sox roller coaster this week?
Do you want to do your little wee thing for everybody?
No. This is an up week. So I won't take any of the piss out of it, because they're hanging around in the division with the Yankees, and they're hanging around, and in the wild card as well. So going and getting 3 or 4 against them, this is a good week. So I'm not gonna. I'm at that high point on the roller coaster where it's about to come down.
So the Red Sox are now minus 800 to make the playoffs, and plus 245 to win over 90 regular season games. in terms of what happened in Yankee Stadium, first of all, the fact that they won 8 straight, was it, against the Yankees this season, and they had clinched the series against the Yankees prior to, I believe, Saturday's game, which very well could matter as these teams sort of battle neck and neck for the top 2 wildcard spots, when it really does feel as though the Blue Jays have had a stranglehold on the division, even though there's a lot of baseball left to be played. Cody and John went to Saturday's game where the Red Sox won 12-3 in Yankee Stadium. Our producer, Cody Merrill, my brother, John. Cody went to multiple games over the weekend. Gosh, it's fun beating the Yankees. And I like that what Jared Carabas did in the Section 10 podcast, that they were going to sort of celebrate and enjoy the weekend, even though they knew the Red Sox were not going to win the series finale, as they so often have not won the series finale. You know, to me, the starting rotation, though, still remains shaky. I don't really have necessarily championship aspirations for this team, but what I will say is I think it all really depends on how they peak. I think that when we're sitting here on September 20th, are they sort of trudging along, or have they gone on any type of stretch? I think that if you get in the postseason, you can make your momentum in that first wild card round, but I think it's all going to come down to the starting rotation. I think Aroldis Chapman having the best season he's had, and I believe in this lineup,
he's been great
tremendously. How about that leg kick with Garrett Crochet too?
Well, here's the good and the bad of kind of where I see where the Red Sox stand. They're making the playoffs. I don't think they're gonna blow this. They're in a pretty comfortable position. And when you look below the wild card cut line, Jay, it's Kansas City, Texas, and Cleveland. None of those teams are going to get hot to steal a spot. So whether the Red Sox are the first wild card or the third wild card, I feel like they're pretty secure. Now, everybody made a big deal about them signing players who are already under their control to long-term contracts. And in some instances, it can be good. And in some instances, it can be bad, where, you know, a shortstop goes down to AAA and then gets hurt and needs surgery and all that kind of stuff. Not that I'm going Jerry Jones here, but so they got a lot of praise for getting 2 extra years on players that they had control of for 6 seasons already, and got a lot of praise for it. Where I'm leading is they're going to make the playoffs, but what this is also going to do is give them validation for the way they do things. And long term, that's going to be the kick in the balls, because they're not just going to be able to buy people out of, you know, arbitration years and free agency. They're going to have to spend some real money at some point, because they still need a franchise player, like the way Aaron Judge is with the Yankees. I think that, like, there are a lot of really good players on the Red Sox and guys that you can admire, like Jarren Duran. But, you know, that, like, when we were younger, Jay, we knew we could turn it on, and we were seeing either Manny Ramirez or David Ortiz. Those kinds of guys, I think they're still on the look for, and they're hoping that Roman Anthony develops maybe into one of those. But at the end,
turn on the TV and you're gonna see Roman Anthony. And and you know, we talked a lot about Alex Bregman, who, frankly, look at his numbers. Yes, they should have locked him up because he may demand more money. But there's a lot of different things, right? But in my mind, as a Sox fan, Anthony and Crochet both signed to team favorable deals. There he is with the Red Sox hat. Go ahead.
Right. Cody was soaking it in this weekend down there in Yankee Stadium. How nasty was it?
Well, it's my favorite place to watch the Yankees lose is Yankee Stadium. It's one of my favorite stadiums for that reason. But it's a fabulous stadium. Got to see it with Jason's brother John. It was an awesome time, great experience. But I wanted to just get on and share my experience from a first-hand perspective about this team and what you guys were saying. The energy of this team, I think, is palpable. You can feel it. They're all in the front of the dugout. Every single player, every time a base hit or some extra base hits happen, they're doing the airplane. You know, everyone in the stands doing the airplane dance. It's an amazing feeling. And like Jason said, you know, Crochet, I mean, he's as advertised. The guy's an absolute hoss. When he gets on the mound, he's got that kind of Kurt Schilling vibe, power pitcher, deliberate to the plate. I thought seeing Brian Bayo on Thursday, he was absolutely masterful. He looked like a complete number 2, looked like he had shades of Pedro in him. And I just wanted to share one thing. The guy that you're talking about, I mean, on Thursday night, your first home run in Yankee Stadium.
Look at
And
the bat flip.
You pimp the absolute shit out of it like that. 21 years old. 21 years old. He reminds me a lot of when Tyler Seguin was making his run with the Bruins, just when you have that youth. I'm not going to drill through the stats. You guys can drill through them if you want from the rundown. But what he's doing already, he's one of the hardest at-bats in the whole league. And so Roman Anthony, when you show up to the ballpark next year at 22 years old, the year after 23 years old, that's the guy. I think we're looking at a generational player. I think a Ted Williams type player. You know, Jason Tatum, when he was having his great seasons at 19, 20 years old, we were talking about him on this level. I think Roman Anthony is him.
You see Drake May drop the Roman Anthony bat flip in his Instagram story. Nothing better for me than the crossover with these Boston athletes. You know, them guys probably going to be boys. They're both like 12 years old. But Gresh, you can smile. It's okay. That you want to do your wee thing now?
No. I was only going to laugh that Drake May probably looks at Roman Anthony and is like, shit, I should have played baseball. 140 million like guaranteed right now. And you know what Drake May is going to have to go through to try to get his. Yeah, exactly.
What Drake May going to do just fine.
We'll see. Hopefully he will do just fine. This'll again, you know, I know that kind of I know that we're getting there, and it's going to lead us to the Patriots, and the season is about to begin. I know that I've got Patriots type programming that's coming up around the corner. But how about this? Some of the quarterback stuff. Browns trade Kenny Pickett to the Raiders for a pick next year. Aiden O'Connell apparently broke his wrist. So the Cleveland quarterback room is going to be Flacco, Dylan Gabriel, and Shador. That was a move I know I didn't see coming, and Lord knows on national radio, I've been talking about that a ton. Hendrickson gets his deal done, Jay. It's 1 year. They're going to bump him up to $30 million, but not extend him. So something to consider down the road. The Giants cut quarterback Tommy Cutlets, also known as Tommy DeVito. Many saying he could be a fit in New England. Please, Jesus.
For what?
For right. Don't bring that.
Carrying the water?
Have you seen his dopey agent too? It looks like he's out of like an old like 1939 movie. Anything standing out to you?
I think the Browns handled that well. I think Kenny Pickett's irrelevant with respect to Aiden O'Connell. I don't think he's that relevant with Geno Smith there. I understand it hurts the depth in terms of a backup quarterback, but if Geno Smith goes down, where do the Raiders really stand? So ultimately, some of these are sort of irrelevant. Hendrickson wanted more guaranteed money, so ultimately, I think that probably greased him in the appropriate way. My Bengals ticket at 21-1. A lot of people think that defense could be as bad, if not worse, than it was last year. I'm not one of them, so I believe in Cincinnati. Go ahead.
Can I give you some on Cincy real quick? Here's my theory. This is a fantasy football team. I mean, really, when you think about it, because whenever you would hear from fans online, it would be, oh, wide receiver or quarterback, offense. Okay. Well, since he has that. So let's see if just an offensive team, how far can they really go in the NFL against well-built clubs? They pulled it off once before where it was basically all offense. So, you know, maybe they can all find a way to come together and do it again. But I think the Bengals are an interesting study this year.
So I want to ask you a question as we sort of transition into the Patriots talk, right? Because for those of you that are not familiar with NFL Survivor contests in general, you pick one team just to win the game every week, but you can't use the same team twice. And I want to talk to you a little bit about sort of the NFL from this Survivor angle as we transition into the Patriots. So in this circa Survivor contest in Vegas, you have to have boots on the ground to enter this thing, right? Last year, the winning nut was 14.2 million. They expect it to be 20 million this year, Gresh. It's growing exponentially.
When you win it, you'll leave us, as you should.
I love your manifestation. You're totally on my train, and I love it. So what's interesting, Gresh, though, is that Thanksgiving is its own week. those 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
And Christmas is its own week, which makes
Mm-hmm.
it very, very challenging on a number of different levels. So I could bore you with all the details. My takeaway from talking to all these sharps last week, I was at this sort of Radio Row thing, talking to guys that have won it. I mean, just give me all of this. You know how much I love the NFL. You would have been hip to it. We need to talk about potentially having some entries. But what I want to talk to you about is the whole thing that my takeaway is these guys are trying to zig when everybody else is zagging. So I want to ask you, sort of a couple weeks out or wherever we are. At one point, I was telling you that, the Raiders scared me. Pete Carroll, Geno Smith, them coming in. I kind of like the 3 points, right? We met a guy out there that maybe likes the Patriots a little bit in the Survivor contest, -3. And I had you in my head because I thought you were pretty bullish on the Patriots week 1. There's so many varying opinions. So before we sort of get into the rats or whatever it is, I know we're still 2 weeks out, but where are you in terms of just week 1, in terms of how bullish you were versus where you are today?
I love the spot. So that is a part of it, right? I don't think there's a massive difference between New England and Las Vegas. But I'll say this. Vrabel, week 1, at home, guy who's been there before, understands what it means. Also, I think for new head coaches, that first win, especially at home, is one that you hope is a tone setter for the year. And I just really believe that, when you look at what is the strongest part of the Patriots defense?
Oh, good question. A lot of strengths. The secondary or the line, perhaps?
It's their defensive line. So you're going to have a team that's going to want to come in and run the ball with Ashton Genty, no question. So if Gonzo is back, there really isn't a wide receiver that you have to worry about with the Raiders, right? It's probably Jacoby Myers, who is
Brock
trying to
Bowers
get that.
Is a problem.
But that's where I was getting to is the way the Patriots play with their safeties. They're going to have to hit Bowers at the first level, have somebody grab him at the second level, and have a safety ready for him if he ends up getting to the third level. So if you slow down the run, which I think Vrabel and crew will very much hone in on, is they'll load up to stop the run, force Geno Smith to make throws he's going to try to force it to the tight end. So I think Vrabel will go down the road of the Bill Belichick theory of we're not going to let their best player beat us. So they're going to put resources on Bowers, and if the defensive line has a day and they slow down the run game, I just don't know how much offense the Raiders are going to be able to generate. And even though I have not dived into the pool completely like some have, I'm not criticizing, but with Drake May, offensively, they'll be good enough to move the ball against a Raiders defense that is very early in a rebuild and not that good. I know the Patriots O-line has struggled, but that game could be 17-3 when it's all said and done.
I hear you. I like the under, even without looking at it. So it sounds like as of today, you're pretty much as bullish as you were without doing a deep dive as it gets closer.
Yeah. I think, they got some O-line issues. They got people to move around, though. So that is good. Also, this is going to be a busy week. I think in terms of transactions for the Patriots, not only you're setting up your practice squad, who are you putting on the practice squad, and what people become available? Do they feel like they need to go trade for offensive line help? I think they're settled in with the group they have. I'm not sure if Bradbury starts at center. My thought is, not having really done the deep dive, my thought is you go rookies on the left side, veteran at center, Onwenu at right guard, and then whether it's Moses or whomever at right tackle. That's what I think they kind of go, because I think having the kid from Georgia, having Wilson at left guard, gives you the kind of beef in the middle that I think you need nowadays, right? Not that we've gone back to the Nate Newton size guards of like 350 pounds, But Mike Onwenu is a guy who pushes that sometimes, and you slide him. You can slide him inside, and he's good enough to really help you in terms of. He's really good in terms of keeping that middle so that May doesn't have the happy feet and want to move around.
So I was going to sort of parlay and get on top of your point, but Cody just said rumors of a Kyle Duggar to the Raiders for Jacoby Myers trade. There's been a lot of rumblings about Kyle Duggar and sort of his fit in this Mike Vrabel defense. Gosh, I've liked a lot of what I've seen out of him as a player. Jacoby Myers, certainly we perhaps would have liked to see him signed when the Patriots have gone in other directions. Your thoughts on that rumor? We don't know the merit behind it.
That'd be a terrible trade for the Raiders. That to me sounds like fan rumor from the fringe guys that sort of cover the Patriots and things like that, because it doesn't make any sense for the Raiders. It would be taking away their best, even though it's only Jacoby Myers, it's their best wide receiver for a safety. Now, that's tough unless that is a true impact safety. And I think, and I can check because I pulled up team stuff right here, I think they have Jamal Adams already on that roster. And if they do, to me, those guys would play similar. So I don't.
Just a question for you from a Patriots standpoint.
Yeah.
It sounds like you would like it from a Patriots standpoint. Gosh, I'm so interested to see how that wide receiver, not only how the room shakes out, but just how the reps shake out on the field. But you think the Patriots, I mean, I like Jacoby's game. You can be sure I think he'd fit well.
Yeah. There's no reason for the Raiders to move on from him.
I hear you, but I'm just asking you from a Patriots standpoint.
Oh my God, it'd be a steal, So this was Myers. Myers requested a trade. They tried to renegotiate his deal and it didn't work. So he did the trade request. They're apparently not going to honor it. Oh, that's the old Richard Sherman at the Hertz counter joke.
So
everybody loves to play that.
Airport.
Larry Fitzgerald, that's what he said. Yeah.
Oh, Larry Fitz. Oh, I really do believe there is a spot somewhere for Duggar in the league. This is one of those.
Definitely.
This is one of those deals where the guy can still play. It's just this scheme and this coaching staff. It doesn't fit him. So I can understand the moving on. I don't know if there are friends of Belichick around anywhere. I would automatically, if a player that was drafted by Bill ultimately gets released, one of the first places I would look would be Denver, because Sean Payton loves to grab those guys for whatever reason. Yeah. There's a lot of kinship there. I just don't think anyone is going to be inclined to trade for Kyle Duggar. And if you're the Raiders right now and you give away your best wide receiver, you have no one. Yeah, like you have no one to put beside Bowers.
Well, no, Amari Cooper's back. So maybe that's the rub there, whatever it is. But we don't got to talk anymore about Jacoby Myers. I want to just say one thing. According to Mark Daniels of Mass Live, Patriots have made a decision, a kicker reportedly going with rookie Andy Borregales. I hope I'm pronouncing it right.
You did.
Out Parker Romo for the job. I'm glad about that. Hopefully he can become a consistent guy that can make it from under 50. I know he missed a 49-yarder, but any quick thoughts on the kicker?
Yeah, when you're a drafted kicker, you pretty much have the job, but they did what you should do, which is still try to, even if it's Fugazi, make him earn it. So no problem with this whatsoever. There are a lot of people who think you don't draft kickers or punters. I think that's uniquely stupid to the analytics world, because if you have you have a team that could have gone to the Super Bowl and their kicker missed a kick, and the guy at the end of the year missed a kick, and you've lost faith in him, and you think you've got another power leg that can go in the draft, you draft that guy to ensure you get him if you're that close as a football team. I think for this group, you go with a rookie. You try to again roller coaster. It'll be with a rookie kicker, but sometimes
that's all I wanted.
And you know
a
what?
little wee out of the big guy. I like
give me touchdowns, and then you only have to worry about the kid kicking extra points. There's the long-term answer, and they'll be better at that this year than they were last year, 100%.
So inject Mike Vrabel into my veins. I like every utterance. I love every instinct. And I understand Belichick belongs on the pedestal he's on with his 6 rings. And hopefully there will be a Red Auerbach-like statue near Tom Brady for Bill Belichick. But Mike Vrabel rubs me the right way. Like, every time I see him, his mannerisms, I know this, you feel the same way, but I love it. Talk to me. Rats in New England, just go. Talk to me.
When he did the whole Rats in New England thing, I sent out a tweet basically saying, you have no idea. They're all throughout the building. And then Vrabel kind of half walked it back on Boston radio with the, I try to be a little entertaining for you guys, and everybody runs with
Bingo.
it. And it's like, dude, so what's the message here? That you do have rats or that you don't have rats?
Both.
It's clear you do have rats, because it got out about Jalen Polk. I'm not giving up on Jalen Polk, and I'm glad to see that they aren't, Jay, because they could have done just an injury settlement and been done with him. But I think there are parts of Jalen Polk's game in terms of the blocking and the physical end of it that could end up really fitting here in New England long term. So in terms of the player, I'm glad they sort of did that. It'll be a reset for him, get him back out there healthy with a year in the system and understanding really the ways more of Josh McDaniels than Mike Vrabel in terms of moving on into the future. I'm kind of glad they did that with Polk.
I think it's a great point, great mug as well. You look a little bit younger in that mug. But professional in the photo on that mug, professional sports so much is about the situation. It didn't hurt Tim Duncan to be able to go play with David Robinson rather than come and be with Rick Pitino. There's all sorts of different situations. And I think there are certain professional athletes, to no fault of their own, that haven't necessarily achieved great thing based on sort of where they were in different organizations. So I'm fascinated to see how different players in different spots are able to sort of adjust, and a guy like Polk, who you could say was in a terrible situation, maybe could be in a great situation this season. The wide receiver, I'm so fascinated to see how that all shakes out and who's getting those footballs. I know it's not going to matter, but there's so much that the preseason sort of leaves to be desired, or there's so much that's kept close to the vest. Even when you talk about the offensive line and trying to envision gelling, when you can't really even play no holds barred football. So anyway, I know I'm on a little bit of tangent there, but I really the situation is going to be very different for a lot of the athletes on the Patriots that were just in this sort of like stew last year.
Yeah, I think from what I'm hearing from people in the building, the culture has completely changed. It's gone back to a culture of accountability. There's no the basketball hoops in the locker room and stuff like that. They're there to work and they get their stuff done. I think the defense has been I don't think the defense has been turned loose this preseason, and the group that we see against the Raiders, especially if you get the kid back, you get Gonzo back, and now you've got somebody that you can glue to the best wide receiver every week and then turn your front seven loose and let those guys be disruptive, make plays behind the line of scrimmage. That's something that I expect that will be different, because, evaluating the Mayo defense, please, it's not even worth it. When you think of the philosophy that Mike Vrabel played under with Bill Belichick, where it was very much, I would call it dancing bear defensive lineman, right? You're trying to gobble up space versus penetrate and make plays. I used that once on a broadcast, and somebody said, do you know the other meaning of that? And I went to Urban Dictionary and was like, I don't care. I'm still using it because it makes sense, right? Like, do you ever see a bear scratching itself on a tree, and you see that's what Bill's defensive linemen were like. He never turned them loose. I think this group of coaches will turn the D-line loose, and that's what I expect to see at least in week one. You went out and spent $100 million on Milton Williams. You're not going to have him do the Vince Wilfork nose tackle dancing bear routine and trying to let your linebackers run around and make plays.
Oh, I agree. So I'm sort of trying to remember when we started this show. I feel like maybe it was around the time of the Super Bowl.
It was November.
Was it November of last
year?
year?
Yeah, it was November of 24. Yep. I was thinking of it the other day.
As we sort of creep on another year. And what I'll say is I look forward to talking to you about the NFL in a more broad sense than the New England Patriots, right? Because in the same way you're bullish on the Patriots in week 1, right? That sort of shows me how objective you are in a funny way, right? You feel me on that, because you're sort of willing to be real honest with me about what your expectations are week 1. You might not be super bullish on them as the season goes along, but I love to bet on the NFL on a weekly basis against the spread, I got all sorts of different things going on. So it'd be interesting to get your perspective, most importantly, in terms of this Survivor. So keep in mind, Gresh, as we shift toward the betting, I want to know from you, like, sort of what your feelings are as we approach week 1. I'm sure you've been in some of these Survivor contests before. I mentioned I'm on Bengals 21-1 to win the Super Bowl. Go ahead.
Well, do you subscribe to the theory of find the 4 wounded animals in the NFL, and that's where you really hone in every week on thinking you're going to end up, winning your Survivor week? I know there are a lot of people. And you talk to a bunch of sharps, so I'm curious to get feedback on that.
So to answer that question, I'll say yes and no, right? But what I made clear, last year, the Patriots beat the Bengals week 1, and it was carnage in the Circa Survivor contest. A lot of people had Cincinnati, and it really proved itself out. The Patriots were one of the worst teams in football. Had they not won week 18 against Buffalo, Travis Hunter would be a Patriot, and they would have been the worst team in football. So a lot of people are a little bit gun shy with the Cincinnati Bengals this season, right? So the Cincinnati Bengals are at Cleveland week 1. And I expressed to one guy who had won the million contest, his name Durbify. He had won the million contest, which is 5 games against the spread. And what he told me as the conversation went along, that I have a bias now against the Cleveland Browns, right? Now, granted, he's picking games against the spread, but so that's what I'll tell you to answer. Yes. Am I looking perhaps to fade teams rather than bet on teams? Yeah, because if I bet against the Browns every week and they lose 14 games, they're going to lose to a different opponent each week. That falls very well on me. But back to what I said earlier about zigging when other people are zagging. What he made clear to me, I got to be very careful of my bias on the Browns or against the Browns, so I don't get trapped in a spot where they burn me in a good matchup situation.
My Survivor thoughts are, at least where they begin, Jay, a lot of times is there are the 4 wounded animals that clearly, who are they playing this week, and is there opportunity there? But the other one is, do you just pick? Do you look at the slate and just pick outright winners and then go from there? Because there's the theory of, there was a sports writer in Providence who always yelled this for years: don't bet on a team that you don't think can win the game. So a lot of people in handicapping sometimes will start with, like, for example, the Cardinals are at the Saints. I think the Cardinals blow. I don't like Calamari at all. They're a little quarterback, but that might be the rare game the Saints will be competitive in. But I think you put the Saints against, Tampa or someone like that, and they're going to get their doors blown off. Like, New Orleans is one of those teams, but if I can't pick a winner in Cardinals Saints, then to me, it's got to go right off the board, even though the Saints are a terrible team and will have Arch Manning next year.
I agree completely with you. And Arizona, right? You could make the argument, the West Coast team coming east, it's a 10 a.m. start. I don't play too much into that, but your point's very well taken. I do like the Cardinals, right? But a lot of people will give that pause because of what you just said. But what I'll tell you, right? Zig when other people zag. I don't expect there will be as many people in the contest on the Cardinals, given some of the things you laid out, whereas Bengals maybe at the road or Eagles hosting Cowboys. Most popular play, biggest favorite right now is the Broncos at home hosting the Titans, right? So what I tell you is, while the Cardinals give me pause as well, even though I look to fade the Saints this season, I may look at the Cardinals week 1 because I think there will be some people laying off and you might be able to get one over on the field.
Well, it's one of the things that I was trying to Google search, but my laptop is jacked up. Like the A and the 1 doesn't work. But I wanted to look up how many number 1 overall pick quarterbacks won their first game. Because everybody is doing it's Cam Ward's first game. You know, the rookie quarterbacks struggle anyway. Normally, you're not winning the first time out, especially going on the road to the Broncos. So I understand why the Broncos are big money. Look, the 49ers early always intrigue me because they're healthy. I'm going to get the best version of the 49ers from a health and on-field standpoint early in the year. So look at the 49ers Seahawks, where for me, I'm not a big Sam Darnold fan. I think he had the right year to go get paid, but that would be a game that I would look at because
I agree. But
you're getting the
San
49ers.
Francisco's not healthy. I agree, but they're not healthy. They just traded for another running back because of how unhealthy they are. They got like 5 or 6 unhealthy running backs there. You know, Ayuk's not there yet, but your point overall is well taken. And I do agree with you. I lean on that side because nobody likes fading Sam Darnold more than AG to the third power and me.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was a Cinderella story last year, which is why it goes poof. I'll tell you what I don't like betting on are these season opening games in other countries. I feel like that's too much of a it's too I can't wrap my head around it from a handicapping standpoint. Like taking these guys, flying them all down there, all the bullshit they go through down there. God forbid your quarterback drank the water and he's got the trots, you know, like there's all kinds of wacky stuff that can happen. You know this, your brother travels international all the time. One wrong glass of water and you're crapping your pants for a month.
Well, I think it's a really interesting point. And the Chiefs-Chargers is the Brazil game, if I'm not mistaken. And I think it's interesting because I think that's probably the hardest game for me to handicap on the board. And the international component. But what I'll say is, as the season goes along, I feel like sometimes those London games, those early games on Sunday morning, you feel like you can get one up on the field. And I feel as though sometimes there are some things you can point to in matchups there, right? Whether it's Jacksonville, they play there all the time. You know, I don't know how successful they've been, but those international games are very tough to handicap, but I'll be looking to sort of try to pick one up on the field there as we move into the season.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think there's a lot of different strategies and thought processes that can go to the Survivor in particular. You know, the psychology of betting Survivor versus betting a super contest so different, you know, and it's and that's the fun of I like the Survivor contest more than the super contest. I don't know where you're at on that.
Well, we've always done, you know, the super contest is what it's called at Westgate. Circa hates when we call it the super contest nowadays, right? Because they have the big one, right? But yes, I agree with you completely. This is the first year where John and I are really getting into the Survivor as opposed to 5 games against the spread. 5 games against the spread is fun. For me, it's like going fucking bowling. Do you know what I mean? Like, It's just fun. But in terms of trying to make money, I believe the Survivor is the best case. And Gresh, I'm a little disappointed. We need to connect. I want you and me to maybe at least have one entry together for some juice on the show. I know you're down. We got some vending machines going. Let's go. You're working every day. You got to go to work right now.
That is true. I got to shuffle off to Mad Dog Radio, where a lot of the stuff that we kind of covered today. I mean, you know, yesterday the Terry McLaurin deal broke right before I went on. I always love the up to numbers. 3 years up to 96 million. But what's the real money? Can you tell me that? He got a 30 million signing bonus though. So that's pretty good dough in real time. And a good job by Washington, unlike what Jerry Jones is doing, dicking around with Micah Parsons. Oh, by the way, prediction Thursday morning. We are going to hear Jerry finally caved and gave Micah his deal, but he dragged it out because he wants to, because he's an egomaniac. And just like Dak Prescott right on the start of the season, you know, on the night where the Eagles hang a banner, right? On a night where the Eagles hang a banner,
Right.
the news will be hijacked by Jerry Jones and them announcing that deal is done with Micah Parsons on September 4th, the morning of the first game.
I love it. I co-sign 100%. I brought that up on another show. I said Sunday morning, and someone was like, no, Thursday morning, right?
Thursday, that's right. Thursday morning, it'll get done. We'll hear rumblings Wednesday night from Adam Schefter, I'm sure. All right, folks, there is another edition of Gas in the Books. Make sure you're subscribing to us on YouTube at The Real Gresh, and you can see us live on our Twitter and Instagram, and we're out there, people. But I got someone calling me to plug in, so I got to scoot. Jay, thanks a bunch. Have a great night on Friday night with Dirty Boxing, and we'll see you here next week with another edition of Gas.